Hello and welcome back to Many Adventures Mini. This time I'm just jumping straight in, partially because I kind of forgot to get some close-up images of this guy before I got started. But as you can see, I am painting another one of these Jurakin Fishman warriors. And here I'm trying out something a little bit different. I did a bit of a more quick and dirty zenithal priming using just my dark gray primer as well as some white primer from the top, and then just lightly spraying it a little bit on the sides. And what I'm doing with this is I kind of decided after the first video I did with these guys, where I came out with the one I didn't really like all that much. It was still good, don't get me wrong, it was still perfectly usable, but I wasn't really all that happy with how it turned out. And with just how creative you can get with something like fish guys or lizardmen or whatnot, I decided I'm going to go ahead and do maybe 3 or 4 videos of painting these guys using some different methods before I move on to some of the bigger, cooler stuff that came out in this set. So for this attempt, I did this different experiment with zenithal highlighting, and now I'm doing the majority of the painting using almost entirely contrast paints and washes. The vast majority of this is painted with just contrast paint. And I think it gets a really cool effect, and surprisingly this was actually one of the fastest paint times I've had on a miniature like this. Start to end, it was just under 40 minutes for me to completely paint this. Obviously that's not accounting for a little bit of dry time, but that was the active amount of time I spent recording, and because of that, since I got it painted so quickly, I was able to reduce my time acceleration that I do on these guys, so this is sped up to only half the amount that I normally do. I normally put my videos up at a ×10 speed, because I still want everybody to get a good look at everything that I'm doing, and I don't want to leave anything out, and I usually paint fast enough that I can get away with that time scale. But this time I got it done so fast, I was able to reduce it to a ×5 speed. So I hope it lets you see a little bit more of what I'm doing. Let me know if you like this speed. It would make my videos a bit longer if I put all of my videos out at this speed. I'm only doing it on this one because I got it done so quickly, and I'm able to keep the video short because of that. But you can see the contrast paint is kind of doing its job of letting me do stuff quickly here. I have the zenithal coat on, and then I've come in with these 2 colors of contrast, and they really just make everything pop really quickly, and it settles into the correct shades. I've been a pretty big fan of contrast paints ever since they came out. And like I've said before, I still would not recommend contrast paints to beginners. I still think it's more of an advanced painting tool. It is completely different in its usage, but mostly that's just because it requires a lot of what we call brush control, meaning that you have a high chance or a high ability to put the paint where you want it using your brush, and you don't have any paint going somewhere that you don't want, like scraping against a leg or something when you were painting the base or something like that. You need a decent amount of brush control to prevent that from happening. And with contrast paints, because they're so high pigment but also so transparent, if you mess up like that, it really will screw it up. I'm going to talk a little bit about this technique I'm actually doing right now. So I used a little bit of Sepia Wash directly on this wheel shield thing this guy has. And this was a little bit of an experiment, but I did like how it ended up turning out. I just kept applying that multiple times to the shield, so you'll see me going back to it a little bit later. And it gives me that kind of like aged, distressed driftwood effect, which wasn't exactly what I was going for, but looks fantastic for this kind of thing, because you can still see a bit of the whites and grays peeking through, but it's definitely tinted brown, and it just makes it look like kind of like a sun-bleached driftwood or something you might see on a beach, which I think for these guys is just absolutely fantastic. And here you can see I'm also using the skeleton bone to paint in the base here. That's because I realized that this looks a lot more like sand than anything else, so I'm like, what's the sandiest color I have? It's also just this bone color. and I feel like that ended up like working really well. And you'll see once I do the next step with it, it ends up just looking pretty fantastic. But I'm just kind of pulling out like my collection of very basic contrast paints here. I don't have a huge collection of contrast paints. I mostly have some of my favorites. I got the voluptuous pink for painting some like Warhammer characters a while back and haven't used it for anything, but it's perfect for this like coral armor and looks better than the effect that I got with the paint scheme last time. And here you can see I'm just picking out a couple of stones, going through, just picking them out to be I just want a little bit of variety on the base there so that it looks a little bit different. You see I'm doing another layer of wash on this shield. I don't mind if it ends up looking a little bit dark here, picking out a couple patches of coral on here with more of this contrast paint. Just getting it on there and covering everything up. And here is where I'm coming in with this skeleton horde. Skeleton horde works great even on just like a white to get a really fantastic bone look, especially when you're using a zenithal like this. But when I put it over the already bone colored paint, here you can see everything was shaking a little bit. That was a small earthquake we had while I was painting, so luckily it didn't screw me up, but it was a little bit of a surprise. But back to what I was saying, the skeleton bone on top of the bone color gives you this really like dark aged effect, and it looks fantastic on the sand and really gives that sandy look. So it's a fantastic way to paint sand. It's just a little bit of a bone color and some of the skeleton horde contrast paint. Then I'm coming in here with my black and white. I did the base, and then I'm just painting the eyes black, using just a tiny little dab of white to give kind of a reflection in the eyes, so that they have these solid black eyes going on. I'm just going over, looking at everything, making sure it's the way I like it. Everything seems pretty good here, so I start wrapping up. And I'm just applying this gloss varnish on it to give a nice wet undersea kind of look. Works whether he's actually underwater or just recently departed. And here we go. Here's the final images. I will admit that gloss varnish just does not photograph nearly as well as matte, but I like the way it looks on the table. It gives the effect that I want. So I really do hope everybody enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please give me a thumbs up. If you want to catch more of my videos in the future, please subscribe and hit the bell icon so you get notified whenever any of my videos go live. If you want to help support me personally, please take a look at my Etsy page down below where I occasionally sell miniatures that I paint, as well as my Patreon page where you can help me out directly there. In addition, I'm also including Amazon affiliate links to gear that I personally use and or recommend, so take a look at those. And even if you don't buy the things you link to, as long as you do your shopping after clicking the code, it helps kick a little bit of money back to me and helps me out tremendously. If you want to see any like sneak peeks into what I'm doing, I occasionally post up some stuff of what I'm working on my Facebook page. You can find a link down to that below. And do make sure to go check out Artisans Guild, where I get the majority of a lot of these cool 3D printed miniatures. There will also be a link to them down below. So I hope everybody has a good day, and I'll see you next time.